The smell of freshly baked cookies filled the small kitchen as Emily carefully tied the blue and gold ribbons around the gift box. On the counter sat a neatly folded graduation gown and cap. The same cap her son Ryan had tried on at least 10 times since it arrived last week. The walls of their modest home were decorated with photos: Ryan's first day of kindergarten, his first soccer trophy, his science fair ribbon. Each image told the story of a boy who had grown into a man against all odds, and a mother who had built their world from scratch. Tomorrow was supposed to be perfect. Ryan would walk across that stage, diploma in hand, and Emily would finally see the reward for every sleepless night, every double shift, every tear she'd wiped quietly when no one was watching. As she poured herself a cup of tea, she smiled softly and picked up her phone. It was time to make that one last call, the one she had been both dreading and hoping for. "Hi, Mom," she began, her voice gentle. "I just wanted to remind you and Dad about Ryan's graduation ceremony tomorrow. It's at 2 o'clock. I saved seats for you both right up front." There was a brief pause. On the other end, her mother's voice came slow and measured, too calm. "Emily, about that. I don't think we'll be coming." The smile froze on Emily's face. "What? Why not?" "Well," her mother sighed, "your sister's twins are still struggling. You know how bad things have been for them since they dropped out. It wouldn't be right for us to celebrate one grandchild's success while the others are in such pain." "It would just make Clara feel worse." Emily's hand trembled. She set down her cup before it spilled. "Mom, it's Ryan's graduation. He worked for this. You can't punish him because of someone else's mistakes." "It's not punishment," her mother insisted. "It's about fairness. You know how sensitive Clara is. She's been through so much, and it would look insensitive if we made a big deal about this right now." Fairness. That word burned through Emily's chest. She could barely get her words out. "So, you think it's fair to ignore your grandson's biggest achievement because my sister can't handle it?" "Emily," her mother said, lowering her voice, "don't make this about you. You've always had to be in the spotlight. Just this once, can't you step back for your sister's sake?" Emily's throat tightened. "This isn't about me. It's about Ryan. He earned this, Mom. He's worked harder than anyone." But the silence that followed told her everything she needed to know. She could hear the distant sound of her father's voice in the background, low, firm, agreeing with her mother. Then came the final blow. "We're sorry, Emily. We're spending the weekend with Clara. She needs us more right now." The line clicked dead. Emily stood there for a long moment, staring at her phone as the warmth of the cookies faded into cold air. Her chest felt hollow, as if someone had reached in and taken the joy out of her. When Ryan came into the kitchen, smiling, she quickly turned away, pretending to check the oven. "Hey, Mom," he said cheerfully. "You think Grandma and Grandpa will sit near the front? I want them to get a good view when I grab my diploma." Her heart clenched. She couldn't bear to tell him. Not now, not when he looked so hopeful. "Of course," she lied softly. "They wouldn't miss it for the world." That night, as Ryan slept, Emily sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the photo of her parents that sat on her dresser. She remembered the countless times they had come running whenever Clara was in trouble, helping her with rent, with her kids, with every mistake she ever made. Meanwhile, Emily had been the responsible one, the one who never asked for anything. She had always thought her quiet resilience would earn their respect one day. Apparently, she had been wrong. The next morning, the house was full of laughter and nervous excitement. Ryan's friends were messaging him nonstop, their plans for photos and dinner buzzing through the air. Emily tried to match his energy, but her smile never quite reached her eyes. As Ryan adjusted his tie in the mirror, he said, "You okay, Mom? You look kinda pale." "I'm fine, sweetheart," she replied, forcing brightness into her tone. "Just emotional, I guess. My little boy's all grown up." He grinned, and in that moment, Emily felt something shift inside her, a fragile strength. Maybe her parents didn't care. Maybe they never truly would, but Ryan did. And he deserved every ounce of pride she had to give. That night, When she laid out his cap and gown, she whispered softly to herself, "Even if they don't show up, I will. I always have." The clock ticked quietly as she turned off the lights. The house fell silent, but beneath that silence was a mother's quiet vow that tomorrow, no matter who stood beside her, she would clap louder than anyone else in that crowd. And for the first time since that painful phone call, Emily smiled, not because everything was okay, but because she was done waiting for permission to celebrate her son's success. The morning of the graduation arrived dressed in sunlight. The air buzzed with the excitement of something long awaited, the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Emily stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her simple blue dress, her heart pounding faster than it should have. She kept glancing at her phone, half hoping to see a message from her parents, even a short one saying they'd changed their minds, but the screen stayed dark. Ryan, on the other hand, was all smiles. He looked sharp in his gown, his tassel swinging slightly as he tried to fix his cap in place. "Mom, stop staring," he laughed. "You're gonna make me nervous," Emily chuckled, blinking back tears. "You just look perfect," she said. They got in the car and headed toward the high school. The streets were lined with banners and balloons. Parents carried flowers, cameras, and posters. Emily felt a lump rise in her throat as she saw other families taking pictures together. Grandparents hugging their grandkids, fathers clapping their sons on the back. She tried not to think about the 2 empty seats she had reserved in the front row. Inside the gymnasium, the sound of chatter and laughter echoed off the walls. Rows of folding chairs filled with proud families faced the stage, where a banner read, "Congratulations, Class of 2025. Emily sat in her seat, clutching her small bouquet of daisies. Every few minutes she glanced toward the entrance, still hoping her parents might walk in at the last moment. But they didn't. When Ryan's name was finally called, her heart nearly burst. He walked across the stage with that confident stride that reminded her so much of the little boy who used to insist on carrying his own backpack on the first day of school. "Ryan Matthews," the principal announced. The crowd cheered, and Emily stood up, clapping as loudly as she could. Her voice cracked when she shouted his name. Ryan looked out over the crowd, found her, and grinned. That big, warm grin that always made her forget her pain. For that brief moment, it was just the two of them in the world. After the ceremony, they walked out into the bright afternoon sun. Ryan's friends ran over, snapping pictures, tossing caps in the air. One of the parents asked Emily to join in for a photo, and she smiled politely, stepping aside. She didn't want to intrude. When they got home, Emily carefully placed Ryan's diploma on the mantel. "I'll frame it tomorrow," she said softly. Ryan hugged her from behind. "Thanks, Mom, for everything." That simple sentence undid her. She felt tears streaming before she could stop them. "Hey, why are you crying?" Ryan asked, laughing nervously. "It's a happy day." "It is," she said, forcing a smile. "I'm just proud of you." He didn't need to know the truth, not yet. Later that evening, Emily uploaded a photo from the ceremony. Ryan holding his diploma, sunlight spilling over his shoulder. She captioned it simply, "Proud doesn't even begin to cover it." Within minutes, comments poured in from friends and coworkers congratulating them both. But then came one comment that changed everything. Clara. "Must be nice to brag when some of us don't have kids who make the family proud. But enjoy your moment." "I guess." Emily stared at the screen, her stomach turning. The words were dripping with passive-aggressive bitterness, the kind of venom that only family could deliver with a smile. Before she could even respond, a private message appeared. It was from her mother. "Mom, Emily, that post was really insensitive. You know Clara is still hurting over her twins. Did you really have to flaunt Ryan's success online?" Emily's fingers shook as she typed. "Emily, I was just sharing a photo. Every parent does that. Mom, not every parent rubs it in. You should be more considerate. Family comes first, Emily. Always. Family comes first." That phrase, it echoed in her mind like a cruel joke. She set down her phone, her face burning. Every ounce of joy she'd felt earlier that day was gone, replaced by something heavier, darker. For years she had bitten her tongue to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to be the good daughter. But this was too much. Ryan noticed her silence at dinner. "Mom, you okay?" Emily looked up from her untouched plate. "Just tired," she whispered. But inside, something was breaking. Not just her heart, but her patience, her willingness to keep pretending this family was anything but poisoned by favoritism. That night, after Ryan went to bed, she sat alone on the couch, scrolling through old family photos. In every one, Clara was at the center. Birthdays, holidays, gatherings, while Emily was somewhere at the edge, smiling quietly. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was her father. "Dad, we saw your post. Your mom's right, it wasn't appropriate. Clara's been crying all evening. You should apologize." Emily read the message once, then again. Then, for the first time in her life, she didn't reply. She put the phone down, turned it face down on the table, and let the tears fall silently. The house was quiet except for the sound of the wind outside. In that silence, a decision began to form. Not out of anger, but out of exhaustion. If her family couldn't be happy for her son, then maybe they didn't deserve to be a part of his happiness at all. And tomorrow, she decided she would stop apologizing for doing what every mother should, being proud. The morning after the argument-filled messages, Emily woke up with the kind of heavy silence that doesn't lift with sunlight. Her phone lay untouched on the nightstand, still filled with unread texts from her mother and Clara. She'd spent most of the night thinking about what to say, but the more she thought, the clearer it became that this wasn't just about one graduation post. It was about every time her voice had been ignored, every time her joy had been treated as something shameful. By the time she got dressed, she already knew what she had to do. She grabbed her car keys and left without telling Ryan. He was still asleep, peaceful and unaware that his mother's heart was at war with her past. The drive to her parents' house was long, an hour of quiet roads lined with tall trees and the occasional passing car. She remembered making this same drive countless times before, for holidays, birthdays, and family dinners where she'd always been the one bringing the food, the gifts, the effort. This time, she wasn't bringing anything. She was coming for answers. When she pulled into the driveway, her father was out front trimming the hedges. He looked up surprised. "Emily?" "Morning, Dad," she said, stepping out of the car. Her voice was calm, but her hands were trembling. Inside, her mother appeared at the kitchen door, wiping her hands on a towel. "We weren't expecting you," I figured, Emily said, her tone steady. "You're probably busy comforting Clara." The air in the room stiffened immediately. Her mother's jaw tightened. "Emily, please, let's not start—" "No, Mom, let's finally start." Her father set down his hedge trimmer and came inside, sighing heavily. "What's this about?" Emily looked between them, two people she had spent her whole life trying to please, trying to make proud. "You both made it very clear you didn't want to come to Ryan's graduation. Fine. But what I can't understand is how celebrating my son's success became something wrong." Her mother folded her arms. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We just didn't want to hurt your sister's feelings. She's been going through a difficult time." "And I haven't?" Emily's voice cracked slightly, but she didn't stop. "Do you remember when I was working 2 jobs and studying at night just to keep the lights on? Or when Ryan was sick and I couldn't afford his medicine? You never offered help then. Clara gets herself into mess after mess and you drop everything for her. Why is it that my success, or Ryan's, has to be hidden to protect her ego?" Her father frowned. "That's not fair, Emily. We've always loved you both equally." "Equally?" she said, laughing bitterly. "Dad, when was the last time you came to see Ryan play soccer? Or when I got my job promotion? Did you even call me that day? But when Clara lost her job, you drove across town that same night." Her mother's voice rose. "Don't talk to us like that. We are your parents. You don't understand the importance of keeping peace in a family." "Peace?" Emily repeated. "You mean silence. You've mistaken my silence for peace all these years." For a moment, no one spoke. The ticking of the clock on the wall filled the room, Her mother's eyes softened just slightly. "You've always been strong, Emily. Clara, she's not like you. We just try to protect her." Emily shook her head slowly. "You don't protect her, Mom. You enable her. And you punish me for not needing protection." Her father exhaled sharply. "This is getting us nowhere. We just want everyone to get along. Family unity matters more than pride." Emily looked straight at him. "But whose unity, Dad? Yours? Clara's? Because all I see is one part of the family getting unconditional love, and the other being told to stay quiet to keep the illusion of harmony." Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to look away. "I used to think if I worked hard enough, if I stayed respectful, you'd see me. Not just as the responsible one, but as your daughter who needed you too." Her voice trembled now, raw and open. "But I finally understand that you don't see me at all. You only see Clara's shadow." Her mother turned away, gripping the edge of the counter. Her father rubbed his temples, muttering, "You're being dramatic." Something inside Emily snapped at that word. Dramatic. The same word they had used every time she tried to stand up for herself. She picked up her purse, her heart pounding. "You know what? Maybe I am. Maybe I'm done pretending everything's fine just to make you comfortable. I'm done hiding my happiness so Clara doesn't feel bad. If that makes me dramatic, then so be it." Her mother turned back to her, voice shaking. "Don't walk out like this, Emily. You'll regret it." Emily paused at the doorway, tears spilling freely now. "No, Mom. What I regret is thinking your approval mattered more than my peace." She stepped outside, the afternoon sun hitting her face as she closed the door behind her. Her legs felt weak, but her heart, for the first time, felt steady. As she got into her car, she noticed her hands weren't shaking anymore. She started the engine, wiped her tears, and whispered to herself, "No more begging to be seen." Driving home, she didn't feel victorious, just free. But she also knew something had changed forever. Whatever came next, reconciliation or distance, it would be on her terms. And as the road stretched ahead, lined with endless trees and fading light, Emily realized she was finally ready to live without the weight of being the forgotten daughter. The drive home from her parents' house felt quieter than usual, not just because the radio was off, but because the storm that had raged inside Emily for years had finally broken. She wasn't angry anymore, not exactly. What she felt now was something different, a calm detachment, like someone who had finally accepted the truth she had been running from. When she walked through the front door, Ryan was sitting at the dining table, his laptop open and a half-eaten sandwich beside him. He looked up immediately. "Mom, where were you? I woke up and your car was gone." Emily hesitated. "I went to see your grandparents." His face fell slightly. "Oh, and?" She took a deep breath, setting her purse down. "And I said what needed to be said. It didn't go well, but I'm glad I did it." Ryan nodded slowly. "Did they apologize?" "No," she said, forcing a small smile. "But I didn't go there for an apology. I went there to stop pretending." He studied her face for a long moment, then got up and hugged her. "I'm proud of you, Mom." The words hit deeper than she expected. For so long, she had craved to hear that from her parents. Now, hearing it from her son, the person she had raised on her own, felt like healing. In the days that followed, Emily noticed how much space she suddenly had, emotionally and mentally. No constant guilt, no forced phone calls, no tiptoeing around Clara's endless drama. The quiet of her home began to feel peaceful instead of lonely. She didn't call her parents, and they didn't call her. The silence was mutual, heavy, but strangely liberating. At work, she found herself laughing more with her coworkers, staying a little later to chat, instead of rushing home to answer another guilt-laden family message. Ryan, too, seemed lighter. He spent more time with friends, started helping around the house, and even took over cooking dinner a few nights a week. But one evening, as they were eating spaghetti on the couch and watching a movie, Ryan's phone buzzed. He frowned and turned it toward her. It was a message from Clara. "Clara, tell your mom I forgive her for what she said to Mom and Dad. I know she's jealous of how close we are, but I'm willing to let it go." Emily's jaw tightened. She texted you that? Ryan shrugged. Yeah, I didn't reply. Should I block her? She sighed. No, just ignore it. People like your aunt need an audience. Don't give her one. Ryan nodded, but his eyes darkened. She's always been like that, hasn't she? The way she talks down to you, or to me. Emily hesitated, then said quietly, She's used to having things her way. I just used to let her. Ryan leaned back, his expression thoughtful. Then stop letting her. The simplicity of that statement struck Emily. Stop letting her. Stop letting anyone. A week later, while cleaning the living room, Emily came across a half-filled notebook Ryan used for sketches. Inside, she found a drawing, a rough pencil sketch of her and him standing side by side at his graduation, smiling. Across the top, he had written, "We made it." Her eyes stung as she traced the lines of the drawing with her finger. That night, over dinner, she asked, Ryan, what would you say if we celebrated again? Properly this time. He blinked in surprise. You mean like another graduation party? Sort of, she said, smiling. Just something small. You and me. Maybe dinner out somewhere nice. You deserve to be celebrated, and I'm tired of waiting for permission to do it. Ryan grinned. I'd love that. Over the next few days, Emily made quiet plans. No announcements, no invitations, just her and her son. She booked a table at a small Italian restaurant downtown, one they'd always driven past but never tried. When the evening came, she put on her favorite navy dress, the one she used to save for family gatherings, and Ryan wore his graduation cap for fun, making her laugh until her sides hurt. They ordered their favorite dishes, toasted with soda glasses, and took silly pictures together. For the first time, Emily didn't care what anyone thought. She wasn't performing for anyone's approval. She was simply living in her joy. As dessert arrived, Ryan leaned in and said, You know, Mom, I think Grandma and Grandpa are going to regret missing all this someday. Emily smiled sadly. Maybe, but if they do, that's their journey, not mine. The waiter came by, offering to take their picture. As the camera clicked, Emily thought about how many moments she had let slip away because she was too afraid to upset someone else. Not anymore. When they got home later that night, she posted one picture online. Just one. It showed her and Ryan smiling over dessert, candles glowing between them. The caption read, Sometimes the best celebrations are the ones you create for yourself. She put her phone down without checking for comments or likes. For once, it didn't matter who saw it, or who didn't, because this was her silent rebellion. Not shouting, not fighting, just living freely, without guilt. And as she sat by the window, watching the night stretch peacefully across the sky, Emily finally understood what freedom really felt like. Not the absence of family, but the absence of fear. The morning after their private dinner, Emily woke up to a quiet house and a full heart. For the first time in years, she didn't feel that dull ache that usually followed any family gathering. The feeling of not being enough, of being on the outside of her own bloodline. Instead, she felt content, light, free. Ryan was already up, sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee in hand. Morning, Mom, he said, smiling when she stepped outside. You slept in. I guess peace makes me tired, she teased, sitting beside him. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the kind only two people who've survived storms together can share. The previous night's laughter still lingered in her mind, Ryan pretending to make a speech with his fork as a microphone, the way the candlelight reflected in his proud, joyful eyes. But peace, as Emily had learned, never lasted long when her family was involved. Her phone buzzed on the table. The screen flashed Mom, then Clara, dozens of missed calls. Ryan glanced at it and frowned. You gonna answer? No, Emily said simply. Not yet. The phone buzzed again, this time followed by a message preview that made her stomach drop. Clara, so this is what you've become? Parading your little celebration online just to spite us? You should be ashamed. Emily felt her chest tighten. She hadn't even tagged anyone in the post. It was just a simple picture. one she thought meant nothing to anyone else. But somehow, her family had found a way to turn even that into a crime. She opened the message thread and saw another text, this time from her mother. "Mom, we saw your post." Clara's in tears again. "You really can't stop humiliating your family, can you? Taking pictures like you're proving something?" Emily let out a shaky breath. Ryan leaned closer. "They're unbelievable," she nodded slowly. "They can't stand that we're happy without them." He took her hand gently. "Then don't let them take that happiness away." "Not again." Later that afternoon, Emily received a call from an unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Her father's voice came through, tight and angry. "Emily, this has gone too far. Your mother's upset. Clara's furious. You're turning this family into a circus with your social media nonsense." Emily closed her eyes. "I posted a photo of dinner with my son, Dad. That's not nonsense. That's life." "Life?" he snapped. "It's arrogance. You're rubbing success in people's faces when you know how much your sister is suffering." "She's suffering because she refuses to take responsibility for her own choices," Emily said quietly. "You can't keep blaming me for that." "Don't talk back to me," her father barked. "You've changed, Emily. You used to respect family." "I still do," she said, her voice steady now. "Just not the version of family that demands silence as proof of love." There was a stunned pause. Then her father's voice softened slightly, almost pleading. "You'll regret this attitude one day. Family is all we have." Emily swallowed hard. "No, Dad. Ryan is all I have. And I'm done pretending that's not enough." She hung up before he could respond. That evening, Emily and Ryan decided to go for a drive. No destination, just the open road and the soft glow of sunset painting the sky. They ended up at a quiet overlook outside of town, where city lights shimmered like scattered stars below. Ryan turned on the car's Bluetooth and played their favorite song, the one that had been playing years ago when Emily first taught him how to drive. He smiled. "I think this is my favorite memory now." She laughed softly. "You say that every time something good happens." He leaned back against the hood of the car. "That's because life keeps getting better, Mom." Her eyes glistened in the fading light. "You have no idea how much that means to me." They stayed there until the sky turned deep blue, talking about the future, Ryan's college plans, his dream of studying architecture, and how he wanted to someday design her a home of her own. When they got back home, Emily found herself scrolling through the comments on her post again. Among the usual family tension, there were dozens of kind words from coworkers, neighbors, and old friends. People saying things like, "So proud of you both," and "Your love shines through this picture." For the first time, she saw what others saw. Not defiance, not rebellion, but love. And then, almost without thinking, she replied to Clara's cruel comment with 3 simple words. "We're just happy." No explanation, no anger, just truth. The next morning, she woke up to another message, this time from her mother. "Mom, you've become so cold, Emily. I don't even recognize you anymore." Emily smiled faintly as she typed her reply. "Emily, maybe you're finally seeing the real me." She put her phone down, poured herself a cup of coffee, and watched the morning light spill into the kitchen. The guilt she used to feel, the fear of being called selfish, dramatic, ungrateful, it was gone. Her celebration wasn't about proving anything. It was about reclaiming joy that had been stolen from her for too long. And as Ryan came downstairs, grinning, asking, "So what's next, Mom?" She knew the answer before she spoke. "Whatever we want," she said. Because this time, happiness was no longer something her family could control. 2 weeks passed since Emily's quiet but powerful declaration, "We're just happy." The storms of family drama had calmed, or at least gone silent. No more calls. No more texts. Just peace. It was the kind of peace that felt almost foreign to her, like she had stepped into a new version of her life. One that wasn't dictated by guilt or family approval. The days felt lighter. Mornings began with laughter instead of dread. Evenings were filled with the small, comforting sounds of normal life. The clink of dishes, Ryan's humming from the living room, and the occasional bark from their neighbor's dog. But one morning, a thick, official-looking envelope arrived in her mailbox. Her name was printed neatly on the front, and the return address made her freeze. Clara Jensen. Emily's first instinct was to toss it straight into the trash. But something, maybe curiosity, maybe the faint hope that it wasn't another attack, stopped her. She brought it inside, sat down at the kitchen table and stared at it for a long moment before finally tearing it open. Inside was a handwritten letter, several pages long, and a small folded photograph. Her heart pounded as she began to read. Emily, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. You have every right to feel that way. But I need to explain something before our family tears apart completely. When Mom told you not to celebrate Ryan's graduation, I didn't fight her. I should have. But at that moment, I was drowning in my own failures. My kids didn't graduate. They didn't even want to. And I couldn't stand to see you, the perfect sister, having the life I thought I was supposed to have. So instead of being proud of you, I let jealousy speak for me. I told myself you were showing off, that you were making us look bad. But the truth is, I was angry at myself, not you. You've always been stronger, Emily. You built your life from nothing, while I was still leaning on everyone else to make mine work. And when I saw that photo of you and Ryan smiling, it broke me. Because I realized I hadn't smiled like that in years. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know the truth. Clara. Emily's eyes blurred as she finished the letter. She hadn't realized she'd been holding her breath the entire time. The folded photograph slipped from her hand and landed on the table. It was a picture of Clara's kids, taken years ago, standing next to Ryan at a family picnic. They were all little then, smiling with ice cream dripping down their hands. A moment from a time when jealousy hadn't yet poisoned everything. Emily sat there for a long time, quiet and still. She didn't know what to feel. Relief, sadness, bitterness? Maybe all of it. Ryan walked in just as she was wiping her eyes. Mom, you okay? She nodded, managing a small smile. Yeah, honey, just remembering things. He glanced at the photo and frowned. That's Aunt Clara's kids, right? Emily nodded again. Yeah, she sent me a letter. Ryan hesitated. Did she apologize? Yes, she said softly. In her own way. That evening, after dinner, Emily went for a walk alone. The air was cool, and the street lamps cast a golden glow on the quiet suburban road. She thought about everything. The hurt, the silence, the years of being the family's scapegoat. And now, this letter, raw, imperfect, but human. She realized something then. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting what they'd done. It was about reclaiming the peace they'd stolen from her. When she returned home, Ryan was sitting on the couch scrolling through college emails. He looked up and smiled. You okay, Mom? Emily smiled back. I think I finally am. She walked over to her desk, took out a pen and paper, and began to write. Not a long letter, just a few words. Clara, thank you for telling the truth. It doesn't erase the past, but it helps me understand it. I hope you find the happiness you once tried to take from me, because I've finally found mine. Emily! She sealed the envelope and set it aside. Whether she mailed it or not didn't matter. The act of writing it was enough. A few days later, Ryan came home waving an envelope of his own, his college acceptance letter. Mom, I got in! He shouted, grinning ear to ear. Emily jumped up, hugged him tightly, and laughed through tears. I knew you would. I'm so proud of you, Ryan. He pulled back, still smiling. I couldn't have done it without you. Emily looked at him, this boy who had become her reason to keep fighting, and felt a deep, unshakable truth settle inside her. She had spent years chasing her family's approval, thinking love meant obedience. But now, watching Ryan glow with pride and joy, she realized something. She didn't need their validation anymore. Her life was already full. Maybe not perfect, but hers. That night, as they sat outside under the stars, Emily thought back to the moment her parents had forbidden her to celebrate Ryan's graduation. She remembered how powerless she had felt, and how far she had come since then. Ryan leaned back in his chair, looking up at the sky. You think Grandma and Grandpa will ever come around? Emily smiled faintly. Maybe, maybe not. But that's not our job anymore. He nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, I guess not. They sat in silence for a while, the world quiet around them. Then Emily whispered, almost to herself, We celebrated anyway. Ryan smiled. Yeah, and it was perfect. And for the first time in her life, Emily believed it. Completely. Because the real graduation wasn't just Ryan's, it was hers.